Okay, I think we're good to go. So welcome everyone. I would like to welcome you to today's webinar, where we're going to have a look at treatment comparison according to the therapeutic guideline using data processing in Azure. It's a very interesting topic regarding the using of the data in the cloud, using innovative tools in the cloud and their importance. And today on this webinar, together with me are Mira Ganova, which is Executive Director of the Digital Health and Innovation Cluster in Bulgaria, along with Dejan Denev, who is Executive Director of the Association of Innovative Pharmaceutical Companies in Bulgaria. So today with them, we're going to discuss why it's important to use digital innovative tools in the cloud. What's their impact on the data? What is the importance of the data itself? How this is helping to generate insights, to generate outcomes. What is important for the patients and for the different stakeholders within the healthcare industry, and how we process this data. How we process this data. With these words, I would like to start with the first question. So, Mira, can you share with us a little bit how the digitization of data gives opportunities for innovation in the sector? Why this is creating innovations? How?
Thank you, Dancho, for giving me the floor, and thank you for the invitation to discuss with you and Dejan such an important topic as the digitalization of health data. We could also set it's just data because the future is digital. So in my humble opinion, everything could be digital, not because of the purpose of the digitalization, just the digital transformation itself, but because of the how we could leveraging the power of the data and technology and all the connectivity within the healthcare sector, and how through this digitalized data, we can drive advancements and achieve better healthcare outcomes for individuals and also on a population health level. So thinking of the digitalization of the data, this is the foundation, the basis for the success digital transformation in any sector, not just in the healthcare sector. So we have a lot of things to do and achieve in Bulgaria, but the good news is that here we have a lot of opportunities regarding the newest technologies, and I can refer to companies like you and like Microsoft, companies which offer a lot of opportunities to develop new technologies and to develop decision supportive tools for physicians, and also more important to capture the insights from the digitalized data. So regarding your question, I want to refer to several common approaches and European perspectives regarding the digitalized data. European health data space has three main pillars for the connectivity of the data and for the transparency of the data and for this European health data space. The first one is data governance, and it's very important to have it. The data governance includes all the standards, all the communication protocols, all the legislation parts and framework that have to be done to ensure the transparency, the connectivity, and the usage and utilization of the data in a proper way. And it's very important to have common standards and to have common interoperability across the sector, and to can improve the connectivity between all the stakeholders. Data interoperability, as I mentioned just right now, is the other thing that is very important to be done in terms of digitalized data and in terms of access to this data. And the third one is the common infrastructure about the health data, all the IT infrastructure, and how we could, as ecosystem, as a sector, to support the efforts on national and at local level. I mean national government and local hospitals and outpatient clinics to digitalize their data. The data itself opens up a lot of great opportunities and horizons in front of any stakeholder, and moreover in front of every innovator to create disruptive local innovation. So we can say that the data access, it's one of the most important things for healthcare professionals, researchers, and innovators. Here is the centralization of the data and every tool that can be used to centralize the data from any source that we could see and could capture. Of course, this could be done with the support of the cloud technologies, because these huge massives of data, they cannot be stored locally, and you know this.
So Mira, you mentioned the European health data space and the legal requirements. So is this the real driver for innovation? The legal requirements, are they pushing the companies toward finding innovative solutions to tackle today's challenges? Or is it the real need of the outcomes that we need to achieve in terms of patient outcomes, in terms of clinical outcomes? Who is the real driver for innovation?
So the real driver for innovation is the innovation itself. All the innovators has this trigger to do more in terms of better patient outcomes, better patient experience, and quality of life of the patients. So the most important thing here is to do what every developed country is already doing. It's to permit the innovators to access the data for secondary usage. So centralize the data, and then separately add, for example, sandbox and other data set for innovators to thrive within these data sets. It's very crucial for the creation of the innovation. Everything that the innovators in Bulgaria are doing is in terms of personalized medicine, improve patient outcomes, optimization of processes for benefits of the healthcare professionals and every stakeholder. A lot of things can be done, but without data, we are not able to achieve those achievements, those improvements, and more important, we could not achieve better patient outcomes if we cannot rely on quality data and centralized data.
I totally agree with you. So is it fair to say that the more we have digitized data, the more passion we have to analyze this data, and this is like the internal real driver which is pushing us toward finding innovative solutions to analyze the data, because the more data we have, the more difficult it is to analyze the data. So the real push for the innovation comes where we need to find how to analyze those huge pieces of data. And the other problem and challenge that most of the stakeholders have is that the data is decentralized. So can we say that this is one of the reason why we are looking to the cloud? Is it only the decentralization of the data? Is it the opportunity to use different tools? What's your opinion about why we need to use cloud and the tools in the cloud?
It's everything, Dancho. A lot of technologies can emerge all these insights, patterns, and correlation with a large data sets. So, and this is all is for the benefit of the patient and for the benefit of better connectivity between the patient and the healthcare system. So a lot of things could be done, but yes, regarding your question, it's easily and the only way to access all these tools, all these improvements, it's within the cloud because of the huge mass of data that we have in the healthcare sector. So valuable insights, patterns, correlation within large data sets, enabling better diagnosis, treatments, planning, and more important, prevention care. We can and we should focus on the prevention models. And this is where the technology and the analysis of the data sets and all the patterns that we could find are crucial to predict conditions and to not permit those conditions to go further with the disease.
I totally agree with you. Some of the biggest technology vendors in the world, like Microsoft, Apple, Google, they're investing millions, tens of millions into developing different tools that can be used to leverage them and use them to make artificial intelligence, to make different algorithms for data analysis, and to help the stakeholders within the healthcare system analyze this data, because what is actually the big need right now out on the market is the opportunity with less efforts to analyze the data. So
And to
all
achieve
vendors,
with less efforts to achieve better outcomes.
yes, and then one of the most important thing also is the added value, because the ultimate aim is to increase the patient outcomes and the clinical outcomes by decreasing the costs. And then I'm trying to figure out, and I'll transit to the next question that I have to you is why, not why, but how does the hospital generated data analytics help drive better patient outcomes? Or in other words, if we analyze the data from the hospital and we gain insights of this data, how, according to you, this is impacting the outcome of the patient?
Well, the answer is in the question that you asked. So yeah, the hospital generated data is crucial for everything that we've already mentioned in the previous question. And by leveraging hospital generated data analysis, healthcare providers can make informed decision. We can support the effective and informed decision making of the healthcare professionals, deliver more personalized and target care, and identify opportunities for continuous improvements. We cannot say what exactly could be the improvements now for every patient and for every individual, but we could continuously achieve improvements and learn from all these generated data. This data-driven approach leads to better patient outcomes and enhance patient safety and improve the overall delivery of the medical care. So predictive analyzing, by analyzing this hospital-generated data, including EHR, including if you say clinical notes, patient demographics science, predictive analytics can identify patterns and risk factors associated with various medical conditions. all this information enables healthcare providers to intervene, to identify high-risk patients, and implement preventive measures, and mitigate potential complications, for example. So a lot of things that could be integrated to generate hospital data. Wearable devices are the other things that could be very important for the data, because we could monitor the vital parameters of every patient and we could do it real time. Clinical decision support for the healthcare professionals is crucial to reduce the administrative burden of the healthcare professionals and left them time to heal what is their purpose.
So if I can make a summary of what you were saying, is that basically all those benefits are like a consequence of the opportunities and the tools that the cloud is providing to the healthcare stakeholders. Of course, there are a lot of questions regarding the usage of those tools, but when we talk about outcomes, both clinical and patient outcomes, we know that one of the part of the value-based healthcare is also the cost. So it's important to mention that leveraging the tools and opportunities within the cloud of the big vendors like Microsoft, Google, or Apple, or Amazon gives the opportunity to the hospital to use the latest innovative technologies available throughout the world on a very cost-effective way, because they're not investing. There is no upfront costs. There is no investments in holding infrastructure on premise, and this gives the opportunity for the stakeholders to focus on what they're best at, treating the patients by using the different technologies. And I'm very grateful and very thankful to the Digital Health and Innovation Cluster with what you're doing about informing and about awareness with your members, what they have, how they leverage those tools and those solutions to help the stakeholders better use and analyze this data. And by the way, Microsoft is one of the members of the Digital Health and Innovation Cluster, and we are partner of Microsoft for the healthcare. So we do analyze hospital data, and we have solutions for the hospitals to compare treatments, to monitor the outcomes of a specific treatments, especially in the oncology and hematology segment. So thank you, Mira, for this insightful overview. I would like to switch to Dejan and talking about data hospital generated data and insights. Dejan, one of the main aim of the hospitals are to ultimately but to ultimately improve the patient outcomes on a lower cost. Most of the time, we know that there are some discrepancies within the therapies. So can you tell us a little bit why is it so important to follow the therapeutic guideline, and what happens if it is not followed? How this is impacting the treatment of the patient?
Thank you, Dacia, and hello to everyone in the panel. Well, if we focus on the treatment guidelines, we can say that they are the bridge between the science and the clinical practice, and they guide the treatment opportunities, the treatment approach every doctor follows in every area, in hospital setting, including. They're supposed, and they do, unify the science and the experience of a certain community, let's say the oncology community. And they do follow the advance in science. The update of clinical guidelines in certain area happens very often, every year, for example. Is it quick enough? Of course not. Science sometimes develops quicker. But in general, physicians follow the guidelines. There are cases in which they do not, because their clinical practice, their experience tells them that there is a better option for this particular patient. But this should be a minority of cases, an exclusion. So it's very important to analyze how doctors follow the clinical guidelines in their clinical practice. It's in the ultimate interest of the patient for the clinical guidelines to be followed in the best possible way, because as I said, they reflect the development of science. It's in the ultimate interest of the hospital for the clinical guidelines, because they show what the best treatment is for this group of patients. It's in the interest of the doctors. It's in the interest of the healthcare system, if you want to say that. There are cases in which, as I said, the treatment goes outside what the guidelines prescribe. But if you analyze those cases and you provide feedback in the opposite direction to the doctor, to the hospitals, to the community, to the pharmaceutical company, why in this particular case the treatment was outside the treatment guidelines, then based on that, conclusions could be made, and maybe the guideline will be updated. So following the guidelines, it's in the best interest of everyone. Analyzing the cases in which the treatment is outside the treatment guidelines is also in the best case. And this could happen only with using digital tools. Using digital tools, softwares, modern instruments, because the analog approaches do not allow any of those things to happen.
I totally agree, and here is the moment that I would like to share something with you. It's one approach that we have taken with big hospital here in Bulgaria, where we did a comparison of the pharmacotherapeutic guidelines by the book and by the real world data taken directly from the treatment process within the hospital. And while viewing this analysis, I would like to focus specifically on this is the chronic myeloid leukemia. Having a look at this graph here, it says that 99.7% is the guidelines are followed. So what does actually mean? Can you, with a very short explanation on a accessible language, if you can give us?
Well, it means that in this particular hospital where the pilot project was carried out, patients get treated by the book.
So does it mean that they're getting the best treatment?
Well, I believe so, yeah. Following the book, if the book, and in this case, the book reflects, the guidelines reflect the most recent developments of medicine, means that the patients get the best possible treatment. Of course, if we think that the guidelines, the pharmacotherapeutic guidelines, which are defined in Bulgarian legislation, do not reflect the latest development in medicines, then patients will not be getting the best treatment. But in this particular case, I believe they do. They reflect the most recent developments, and the patients are getting the best possible treatment in the most effective way also. I wouldn't say that the hospital is not trying to decrease the cost, because if you go outside the pharmacotherapeutic guidelines, this might mean that you are treating the patients in an ineffective way. I mean financially also in an ineffective way. If you go outside the pharmacotherapeutic guidelines, it might mean also that the hospital is trying to save money on pharmaceutical treatment, which is not at all the best scenario. Following the guidelines means following the book, and means that the doctors in this hospital are not trying to save on pharmaceutical treatment. So if we can answer, patients are getting the best treatment.
So if we can answer the question, why is it important? From what I understood from your explanation is that in a long term, following the pharmaceutical therapeutic guideline yields lower cost for the cost of treatment for the hospital, and yields better patient outcomes in terms of clinical outcomes. Is it fair to say this?
Definitely provides better treatment outcomes. If we say lower cost, compared to what lower cost?
Comparing to not following the guideline.
Yeah, probably. But as I said, it could be a different scenario. Not following the guidelines because the hospital is trying to save on drugs. Right. Then, yeah, the lower cost is not the purpose here. The purpose is the best outcomes within the most effective financially treatment opportunities. And these are the guidelines. These are the guidelines. Because when we evaluate cost, we shouldn't consider only the cost of the drug, but the cost of
the clinical outcomes.
Ultimately, if you treat the patient longer, it's more expensive, but then you provide healthy life years,
quality of life of the patient.
Quality of life, yeah. So the guidelines are supposed to provide the best treatment for the patient, not the cheapest one.
Thank you for this clarification. And so how would patient benefits change if we could track differences between guideline and provided treatment? So why is it important to use these tools and to find an innovative solution which can longitudinal track whether the patient is following, like what is the information that is, why is important this? How the patient benefit from this?
Well, for many reasons, it's very important. First, it's important for the society and authorities to know that the treatment of patients follows the guidelines. Because, very often news hits the media, and sometimes even politicians say that the patients are not treated in the right way. The medicines are being overprescribed, or not the right treatments have been used, or doctors prescribe because they're motivated in a different way, not in the best interest of the patient. So these analyses are important, first for authorities, politicians, but second also for society, to justify and explain that Bulgarian doctors follow the best treatment guidelines, which all their colleagues in the European Union and the developed countries follow. So that's a very important thing, and we have to say it out loud. The second, as we said, it's a constant process. You cannot, just make an analysis once and close it and never again check. So it's a control tool. It makes sure that the physicians know, but also authorities know that the prescription practices are being controlled. And
so compliance.
So everyone will follow compliance. And if this is done in a constant way, monitoring the situation in every hospital, I would say, not on one hospital, in every hospital, control is the best way to preserve trust between the different parties. And also patients will know, if this is published and this information is clear for them, patients will know that when they get to the hospital, they will get the best possible treatment. There were cases in last year, I think, or the beginning of this year, for certain mispractices in certain hospitals regarding oncology drugs. And this creates a lot of tension. The patient keeps asking, am I getting the best treatment? So these tools persuade everyone that the clinical practice follows science, follows, if you want, the experience and the knowledge of certain society in a certain area in the best possible way. And this is constantly checked and constantly controlled by these tools.
So in short, the first example that you have given, we can say it's a compliance. This is why. And this compliance is needed for the government and for the healthcare providers so that they can prove they're following the right.
Right. I want to add something here. It's not enough only to verify that the prescription practices in a certain hospital follow the guidelines. we see that
we'll see this question in a little while when I'm going to show you the next.
We need to link the prescription practices to the guidelines, but also to the outcomes.
Right. And I just wanted to summary. So the compliance is one thing, and the second thing, why, as we say, how would patient benefits change? What I heard from what you said is that patients, this is like awareness for the patients, that they feel informed and they feel safe that they're taking the latest and the right therapy for their diagnosis. Is it fair to say like this?
Fully agreed. Yeah, it's fair to say.
Dancho, I just want to add something regarding what Dejan said. It's about trust also. When you are creating a predictive environment, a predictable environment where everybody knows what are the right ways and what are the right approaches regarding diagnosis, regarding treatment, regarding therapy adherence, everything, you are building credibility and trust within all the healthcare systems. So it's crucial to have all these data so we can create this linked, as Dejan said, environment, could analyze it and could provide insights, patterns to get informed and effective decisions. So everything has to be connected. Everything has to be taken in mind and following all the patient journey and all the pathways that they are needed to improve outcomes, to reduce costs, of course, and to follow the European practices. So we in Bulgaria, we are not early adopters, but we can learn from other developed healthcare systems and healthcare societies where all these tools are already integrated.
And as Dejan said, it's also a way of generating new insights and new ideas for inventing new therapies that are applicable to the diseases, because as the disease is evolving, so the therapies are evolving as well. And by talking about the guidelines and the therapies, Dejan, I would like to ask another question, which is, by the same analysis that we had, there is another ICD that we have analyzed, and we see that there are actually some discrepancies. And my question here is, what is the allowable discrepancy between the guidelines and the provided treatment, and why there are cases where the treatment are not followed? Is this good or is this bad? Or what's your comment on this?
Well, it's very difficult for me to say what the margin should be, but it's clear that when you have a manual, you never follow the manual in 100% of the cases. So there are cases in which you need to go outside of the manual, and but these cases need to be motivated and explained. So we shouldn't say, when we see here in red that in some cases patients were treated in a slightly different way than the guideline has recommended, we shouldn't be alarmed. But we should look into those cases and come up with an answer. And I'm pretty sure that based on the experience and the clinical practice and the information physicians have, they're choosing the best treatment for their patients. And all these cases can be motivated and explained. And as I said, the feedback we receive from this exclusions from the guidelines can be used either to improve treatment or to adjust the way the hospital help is organized in this particular area. But it's important to know. It's important to know that these cases are there and why are they there.
So it means that in this scenario specifically, it's important to monitor the therapy. It's important to track what is the overall outcome at the end of the therapy, and then to dig in and see what are the motivators, what are the reasons that this therapy was prescribed in this specific way. Because we all know that sometimes the personalized approach to the patient may, most of the guidelines, they say that most of the guidelines worldwide are created based only on the 3% of the health data worldwide. The other 97% are not yet analyzed. So basically, if I combine all this information, is it fair to say that if we dig in with the help of the technology, with the help of the tools, with the help of the data itself, if we dig in deep enough, we may find some relations or some correlations that can give us insights which may change the guideline?
Oh, definitely, definitely. As I said, science develops so quickly that written documents, which the guidelines are, can never fully follow. They need time to be updated for the most recent developments to be reflected. And this analytical part, which the digital tools provide, the opportunity for that, can help in updating the guidelines. So, but it's very important to say one thing. That's why we can, these are the reasons we cannot take the guidelines as protocol. We cannot say that doctors need to follow the guidelines 100%. And I know, and you know, that policymakers discuss how they can implement the guidelines into software tools which or parts of the software of the hospital, for example, and guide and even control the prescription practices of doctors. And some politicians might say, you know what, why don't we take the guidelines, implement them in the hospital software, and not allow the doctors to prescribe outside the guidelines. I mean, there is a drop-in menu for the certain patient, which using a very sophisticated tool can be developed, and the doctor cannot go outside what the software says. That would be a very bad approach, very bad practice. This would be
very dangerous.
Very dangerous. This would mean that the software chooses the treatment, and the payer ultimately who controls, everything. The doctors should be free to choose the best therapy for their patients. So the treatment guidelines implemented in the software could only be a helping tool, a recommendation, and an analytical tool which digs in and finds out what the reasons are for the doctor to go out for this group of patients outside of the treatment guidelines. But it should not be turned into a mandatory protocol. That would be very dangerous.
So, and this is exactly what I was sharing during our conversation. Together with a big hospital in Bulgaria, we have developed a tool which actually is giving the opportunity to analyze this data regarding the prescribed treatment and the actual given treatment, which is giving insights on what were the real world data in this hospital. And then with this, we are comparing the pharmacotherapeutics guideline with the given therapy, and then we have the opportunity to dig in and analyze and to see what were the reasons behind these decisions. Why did the physicians in this hospital decided to prescribe this therapy to the patient? And then with some of the analysis that we have done with this, because those rates that you see here, 19.77%, that doesn't mean that they're not following the guideline. When we digged in, we saw that actually there are some supportive therapies and there are some specific cases based on specific mutation of the patients where actually that was better than the pharmacotherapeutic guideline, which proves us, which gives proof to exactly what you have said. And I have to mention that if we didn't use the technology that we're using, the Microsoft Azure, the tools within the Microsoft Azure, and the Power BI as an analytical tool, which gives us the opportunity to analyze the data in real time, that would not have been possible because the amount of data that we went through, it's impossible to be done manually. And I want to ask you here, Dejan, which organizations or institutions or medical groups, physician groups, which would be most interested in comparing these therapeutic guidelines and applied therapy from the real clinical practice? How would this information serve them? We heard what's the benefit for the patient, but which are the organizations that are most interested in following this?
Sounds like a closed-end question on your side. You want the right answer for me? I would say that the beneficiaries as organizations of this approach would be so many that they're even difficult to put in one paragraph, on one slide. First, authorities and institutions. Them being able to see first that the guidelines are followed in 99% of the cases.
Yeah.
It'll be very easy to justify to politicians that the money, the public money, are invested in the right way because the guidelines are followed. That's first. Second, all the learned societies of physicians could use this data in order to analyze their practices, make recommendations, discuss all these cases where there are exclusions from the clinical guideline, and help drive the science forward. You mentioned that there is this, I mean, not even the guidelines, the marketing authorizations of pharmaceutical products cannot follow science so quickly, because currently we have enough cases in which you analyze genetically the tumor of the patient, and then the software recommends a combination of treatments, and these treatments are still not authorized for that disease. And we have those cases constantly, and they cannot be reimbursed actually. But then the software says, based on the collected data for the last years, that the patients who have received this combination of treatments have achieved the best outcomes. So the digital tools we're discussing currently will help the learned societies contribute to the debate in this direction. How could clinical practice follow science, and how could regulation follow science also? What kind of organizations? All the payers could be hospitals, but also the payers could benefit for that. I imagine that managing decision within the management of the hospital can be taken in regards to pharmaceutical treatment within the hospital based on the outcomes which these softwares provide and develop. And also policy decisions could be taken at much higher level, national level, by policymakers. For example, in Bulgaria, we have this control of reimbursement status, if I translate it right in English. Every 3 years, the National Pricing and Reimbursement Council has to make an evaluation of the reimbursement status of certain drugs and make a decision whether to continue as this or change the reimbursement status in some way. So making those decisions based on data collected in hospitals from the clinical practice compared to the clinical guidelines and using it to make those decisions can make them as efficient as possible.
That reminds me of what Miro said in the beginning, informative decisions.
Well, the ultimate goal. And also we can add here that it becomes more and more normal to use outcomes data for reimbursement contracts around Europe. Still not done in Bulgaria, and it cannot be done for all drugs, it's clear. But for some drugs, it's possible to sign a contract with the National Health Insurance Fund based on the data collected through these softwares, and based on that, reimbursement payments to be made or rebates to be provided. You cannot do this with analog tools. You need to do it with such tools. For example, the contract could say that the company provides rebates if the desired outcome for a group of patients has not been reached, but only if the pharmacotherapeutic guidelines have been, the clinical guidelines have been followed. Because the company cannot be responsible for the outcomes in which cases the pharmacotherapeutic
they were not followed.
So you need to make sure that the pharmacotherapeutic guidelines were followed, and currently you cannot.
So can we say that pharmaceutical companies are also interested in monitoring this?
Definitely. That's the only way to sign outcome-based contracts, because you need to make sure in a reliable way that the guidelines were followed when providing certain treatment. It wasn't under-prescribed, over-prescribed, used off-label, for example. Then, if the desired outcome, which the company claims in the short product characteristic, based on the marketing authorization and clinical trials, that it should be achieved and is not achieved, then an additional rebate could be provided.
Thank you, Dejan. So I'll try to summarize today's conversation. We described with Mira why and how the digitization of health data gives opportunities for innovations in the sector. And we understood that the innovation is the main driver for innovation, actually, because we need to take informed decisions. We need to find new ways of analyzing the data, which is otherwise impossible to analyze. And why is important to follow the therapeutic guideline? Because it gives compliance, because it gives informative decision to the patient. It gives them the right information that they have the right therapy for the right disease. And it also gives them the possibility to have the right outcomes based on this. But we also understood that sometimes the therapeutic guidelines cannot be followed or must not be followed, depending on the individual, depending on the personalized approach, because that's not a protocol, it's a guideline, as Dejan said. So with this, I would like to close the discussion session and then to see if there are some questions coming out from our participants today. The floor is yours. If there is some questions, please write them down because we don't have the voice option activated. So please feel free to write in the chat questions if you want to understand something more or to ask our participants. We'll give them 1 or 2 minutes for this. And if there are no questions, we're going to close today's session and to thank everyone about the participation.
Dancho, while we are waiting, I also want to mention that what you have done with the Opt-in project is also very important to be mentioned, is the resources optimization and the generated hospital data optimize resources allocation and utilization. By analyzing this data of the patient flow, beds in the hospital and resources, you can find patterns and identify bottlenecks and ensure efficiency in terms of staff, of equipment, of facilities. So this is another very interesting approach regarding the cost effectiveness, regarding the patient outcomes, because the optimization of the resources in one hospital gives the opportunity to reduce the patient flows there and improves overall operational efficiency in the hospital. So yeah, this also it's very very good to be mentioned in terms of data analysis and generated hospital data.
Thank you, Mira. We are trying, we're putting a lot of efforts to develop and to create those tools, to leverage those tools to create the proper visualization and analysis, because we believe that the more people and the more organizations we involve, this will help everyone in the system because of the reasons that you already described, both you and Dejan. And we really believe that the key is in the data. So, of course, there are a lot of challenges with the cleanliness of the data, the decentralization of data, but it's a transition period. So with time that will be cleared. We have a question coming to Dejan. Dejan, we have a question to you. How do you think data and big data and AI implementation could shorten, improve, and fasten? Okay, you have the.
Sava is writing, so I'll start answering until he's writing the next question. Well, it's already happening. I recently learned a new term, in silico, the term is. So you can research a new drug, a new treatment in vivo, in vitro, and in silico. So it means that you use data which is already available, because these are huge amounts of data which have been generated by clinical trials, and use this data, use digital tools, artificial intelligence in order to the simplest ways to repurpose drugs. So you have a treatment for something, but based on the data which is already available, AI can help companies repurpose that drug for a different treatment, because the data is already there. It just haven't been combined and analyzed in the right way, and AI does this already.
So you're saying that the scientific work is moved from the laboratories to the data silos?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And it's already happening. It happened during COVID. What companies did during COVID, they called it combed the data already available for treatments they believed could be repurposed for COVID, and came out with certain solutions. The RNA vaccines are exactly such an idea. Of course, this requires, I have to say this, companies to share their data in a different way they're currently doing it. Because this data is somewhere on servers or in the cloud, but in closed silos, which are not available for the scientific society, not available for the AI to reach in those silos and use that data. So when companies start sharing, and it's a property data, of course, it has been acquired through a great deal of investment.
I was about to ask this, yes.
Yeah, it's not so easy to be done, but companies are already doing it, combining efforts, combining data, using AI, and based on already available data, coming out with proposals for new treatments. And it could also be used, data, big data, AI, to collect data in clinical trials and analyze data in a much more efficient way until it was done until now. And again, COVID was the spark for that. In the beginning of COVID, clinical trials activity decreased in the first 6 months, because most of the clinical trials require for the patients to go to the hospital. And you cannot go, during COVID, it was much difficult for this to happen. So all clinical trials organizers changed the way they approach the clinical trials organization and implemented digital tools. And now it is done in a newer, much more efficient and quicker way. So this delay, this block the pandemic implemented, was short and helped change the way clinical trials are done.
So Dejan, what I heard from you is that COVID actually gave a lot of opportunities, so it wasn't that bad.
It was very bad. We lost a lot of lives, but human society excels a lot in times of war. Science excels a lot in a time of war. And the pandemic was kind of war. So science improved during COVID time.
And then the war came.
Yeah, because the challenge pushes us to do things in a better way, to invent, to innovate. You started with this.
Okay, and we have the second question to Mira and to me. As discussed, data in European health data space would be a huge improvement, especially when it comes to driving innovation, especially in rare diseases, where CT are very difficult to recruit patients. So how we as a country stay in terms of contribution of data, and what we as community can do to drive and improve ecosystem so Bulgaria is favorable for health data and digital health solution. I think, Mira, this is more to you.
Am I mute? Okay, I'm not. So Yeah, very interesting question. We pointed out several topics related to the question previously. So as a country, it's very crucial, we already discussed it, to ensure the effective data capturing to support the digitalization of the data at local level, because we are all talking about digital transformation, national digital transformation, electronic health records and everything, but nobody talks about local digital transformation, how the hospitals can leveraging by using and by digitalizing their data, what they can do with this data in terms of their patients, in terms of sharing their data within the healthcare ecosystem. So I'm going to give you an example regarding the imaging diagnostic, for example. There, the images for the imaging diagnostic are archived just in the hospitals. So we cannot share images between different hospitals, different facilities, etc. So it's crucial to ensure the data governance, the data interoperability, the data sharing at local level. Then when we know that we have quality data, because it's important to monitor the data quality, how we are capturing this data, from what sources we are taking this data. And then we could think how Bulgaria could leveraging by using this data at European level, for example. As a community, we have the purpose to support these efforts at local level. First, to educate and to create awareness among the healthcare communities, among all the healthcare professionals regarding the utilization of this data, regarding the quality of this data, and regarding the benefits of analyzing this data. So create awareness, educate more, and support the local digital health transformation is crucial for our facilities, for Bulgaria to leveraging as other European countries, and could contribute in some way for the European health.
And this is actually what the Digital Health and Innovation Cluster is doing. Increasing awareness, educating students with the programs that you have in the university, supporting the local companies which are trying, like us and other companies, which are trying to develop, to create different tools to data analyzation, organizing different events where you educate also the management of the healthcare stakeholders. And I'm very grateful that you're there, and I'm very grateful that we are part of the Digital Health Innovation Cluster, because this is helping us a lot. It's helping everyone. This is how we create the ecosystem, and this is how we all together with common force we are trying to change the whole
the environment.
Exactly.
Yeah. And thank you, Dancho, because we as a community think that the only way for success is are the common efforts. So we are effectively partnering with all the stakeholders and with Diane from our farm, and we are looking in the same direction. We have the same vision for the healthcare system in Bulgaria, and we together with all the stakeholders, every with their own specific expertise, we could add a lot of value in all the healthcare processes, their optimization, the improvements, the outcomes. So I think that the government should rely on these experts and contribute with more knowledge, with more awareness, and with more specific expertise to all the transformation in the healthcare, because the transformation is not just digital, it's cultural, it's business process transformation. Also, we need more and more experts here in Bulgaria to contribute to all these models and approaches. So I'm very happy that we are working with a lot of companies, and we are partnering with communities and with organizations like R-Farm, other patient organizations to achieve the common goal for more sustainable and efficient healthcare in Bulgaria.
Absolutely, and I also support the comment in the chat that DHI role is crucial in driving the digitalization in the country. Strong organization, unifying all visionary in the field. Thank you for all the participants. Thank you, Mira Ganova. Thank you, Dejan Denev. You are very valuable in our ecosystem in Bulgaria, and you do a lot of efforts and help to change the environment. So thank you for being today with us. Thank you for this conversation, and I hope we're going to see us again soon. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure to moderate this webinar today, and very soon we're going to provide record for those who couldn't attend. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.